and could we have the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Councillor Evans, Councillor Kabowski,
Here.
Councillor Lopez, Councillor Paterna,
Here.
Mayor Pendleton,
Present.
Deputy Mayor King,
Here.
Councillor Kozakowski,
Here.
Councillor Leidecker, here. Councillor Gamble.
Here.
Thank you. I would like to take a break in our agenda for a minute because we have some visitors with us, some wonderful guests from the Patriotic Commission Essay Contest winners. And I would like for I don't see him, there he is. I would like for our Patriotic Commission member to please go ahead and start your program. Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you, Mayor Pendleton. Mayor Pendleton, members of the Town Council, residents of South Windsor, and students. My name is Roger Anderson, and I serve on your Patriotic Commission. There are some other Patriotic Commission members here. I would like to introduce them at this time. Could you stand, please? Our chair is Bobby Joe Motz. Our secretary is Daria Plummer. We also have Herb Asplund and Ed Galinsky. For many years now, the Patriotic Commission has sponsored an essay contest on a patriotic theme for the South Windsor students in grades kindergarten through 12. The 2021 contest was divided into 4 categories. For kindergarten to 2nd grade, students were asked to draw a poster depicting their favorite place in South Windsor. For grades 3 to 5, students were asked to write an essay discussing the importance of celebrating patriotic holidays. For grades 6 to 8, students were asked to write an essay discussing how they could promote patriotism. And for grades 9 to 12, students were asked to write an essay about what it means to them to be an American. Tonight I have the honor of presenting to you the 2021 winners for each category. And we're going to start with the high school. If the 2 high school students could come over, please. Okay, Ryan, if you'd introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Ryan Duong. I was the 2nd place winner. I go to South Windsor High School, and I won this in my 9th grade.
Hello, my name is Justin Sen. I wrote this essay when I was a senior. It was 1st place. Yep.
There we go. Yay. Thank you. Congratulations.
If the middle school students could please come over. Middle school. Grade 6, 7, and 8. Okay, and we had a tie for 3rd. So if the 2 3rd place winners could come up and introduce themselves.
My name is Mihika Joshi. When I wrote this essay, I was in 7th grade, but I am currently in 8th grade.
Hi, I'm Paravi Shrivastava. When I wrote this essay, I was in 6th grade. Now I'm currently in 7th grade.
There you go. Congratulations.
And second place?
Hello, I'm Ava Matthew. I wrote this essay in 8th grade, and I'm now a freshman in South Windsor High School.
First place, and you'll read your essay.
Hi, my name is Smriti Rajan, and I was also in 8th grade when I wrote this essay. I'm now a freshman at South Windsor High School.
There we go. Congratulations. Good job.
Now, if the next category, 3rd through 5th grade, could come over, please. And we'll take the 3rd place winner first. And if you could introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Garish Prasad, and I wrote this essay when I was in 5th grade.
Congratulations.
Hi, my name is Greta Johnson, and I wrote this essay when I was in 4th grade, and I go to Pleasant Valley School.
Hi, my name is Anya Dossi. I wrote my essay when I was in 5th grade.
And now if we could have the poster winners stand up, please, and if you could show the town council members your posters, hold them up, please. And then turn around and show the audience. Turn around and show the audience. There you go. Okay, come on over here now. Okay, here we also had a tie for 3rd. Who's our 3rd place winners? Okay. Introduce yourself.
My name is Bryce Burnham. I wrote this poster in kindergarten, and now I'm in 1st grade.
Okay. 3rd place. Who's the other 3rd place winner?
Congratulations.
Okay. Jay. Okay. Could you introduce yourself?
My name is Jay,
Yeah. What school?
and I go to Pleasant Valley School.
Okay. And what grade were you in when you wrote drew the poster?
And I was in 2nd grade when I when I made the poster.
Good for you. We'll see them there. Okay. And your 2nd place? William?
My name is William Chan, and I wrote this when I was in 2nd grade. I go to Philip R. Smith.
Very good.
My name is Davina Sarah DeLager. I go to PRS. I made this when I was in 2nd grade. I am now in 3rd grade.
Posters, huh?
Would they like pictures?
Well, first,
Go right
first
ahead.
stage winners.
Go ahead.
Once she finishes. Justin? Okay, in the last 3 categories, we're going to have the 1st place winners read their winning essays. And this is Justin. Go ahead, Justin.
All right, good evening. All right, let's see. I do have a face. All right, what it means to be an American. I am an American, a proud and free American with all the opportunity in the world. I can be whatever I want, become anyone I want, as I'm free to make my choice. My opportunity and privilege are what I consider to be the fundamental identity as an American citizen. The liberty, freedom, and choice that every individual citizen possesses is what makes America unique in this world. For one, being in America means we have our basic freedoms of speech, equality, and civic duty. I can express my opinions publicly, participate in elections, and actively live in my community, knowing that I'm protected from persecution, segregation, or unfair punishment. However, to me, being an American is so much more than these written laws and basic actions. Most importantly, we have the right to opportunity and the amazing ability to pursue happiness and your own American dream. This value is near and dear to both me and my family, as it was in stark contrast to what my parents faced in their home country. My parents were both immigrants born in Vietnam who came to this country with nearly nothing. After the collapse of the Republic of Vietnam, both of my parents faced countless hardships, including poverty and political persecution. They eventually left their home country in search of a better life and came to America to start anew. Despite these struggles, however, drastic life changes and the language barrier, both my parents managed to build themselves better lives and reach their lifelong goals thanks to what America had to offer. They both graduated from college, acquired respectable jobs, and made a great living through the values of hard work and determination. Now it's my turn. Their extraordinary stories serve as inspiration, reminding me that nothing is impossible in America if I put my mind to it. I've grown up in the most freest, most opportunistic country in the world, and I can, just like my parents, become anyone or anything I want to as long as I try my hardest. Regardless of where I go or pursue in life, whether it be starting a business, studying medicine, or working for a charity, I know for certain that I will take full advantage of what I have in this country and achieve my own American dream. In the home of the brave and the land of the free, there are endless possibilities for any direction I choose to go. All I need is desire, and there's no barrier nor limit that can stand in my way. After all, as proven by my own parents, there's no dream that's too far to reach in America. This, to me, is what being an American is really all about. Being able to set and pursue goals, express myself, and most importantly, reach a level higher than I ever could in any other country. Thank you.
Middle school first place winner.
Every day, students all over the U.S. say the Pledge of Allegiance before their school begins. But how many of us understand the true spirit of those 31 words? It's about time we realized just how powerful that pledge is and the patriotism hidden beneath every word. First of all, what is patriotism? What makes the men and women in the military put their life on the line to protect and defend their country? What inspired Francis Scott Key's song that we now refer to as our national anthem? What ran through the minds of those brave individuals who fought for our freedom? The short answer, patriotism, love, devotion, and respect for their country. However, patriotism isn't always just joining the military or fighting in wars. As just an 8th grader, there's so much that I can do. I would promote patriotism by celebrating where our country has come, putting together a presentation that speaks of the American values, or visiting the memorials of the brave men and women who lost their lives defending our country. I'll read books that tell of our vast history, not just to get good grades or complete my homework, but to remember the countless sacrifices that were made to enjoy the freedom that we now have. I bow down to the veterans that I've met and will meet in my lifetime. I'll keep my neighborhood and parks clean and lend a helping hand to a neighbor that needs help. I plan to choose community service as my high school elective, not just to meet my elective requirements, but to actually make a difference in someone's life. I'll treat my fellow Americans with respect and appreciate the differences that we see in each other. I strongly believe that we, the people, can make a powerful change. It starts with all the little things that bring us together and inspire others to make a change. And it starts with the voices of tomorrow. In times like these, all we need is a little bit of hope. Let's spread patriotism and be the change that we want to see in the world. Thank you.
And now for the 3rd to 5th grade category, Anya.
Patriotic holidays like Patriotic holidays like Memorial Day, Independence Day, and Martin Luther King Day are important to America. These holidays bring people together and show our pride in America. A holiday like Memorial Day is important to remember the people who gave their lives for this country. Having these holidays is great because they bring people together. In my family, on Independence Day, we go to my grandparents' house to have a picnic and celebrate America's independence with a cookout. Holidays like this are what bring people together. We sing patriotic songs like You're a Grand Old Flag and This Land is Your Land. Some holidays even have fireworks that the town sets off so friends can come together to celebrate too. Another reason it is important to celebrate patriotic holidays is because it gives Americans a chance to show our pride in America. We are a united country, and even though people do not always agree with each other, it is on these days that we all come together as Americans. These holidays also let us think about how far we have come as a country. A holiday like MLK gives us a chance to think about how our country has changed. Celebrating Dr. King is a way to remember that America isn't perfect, but we are always trying to be better by making sure people of all colors, religions, and differences are welcome. Memorial Day is an important holiday because it is a time for Americans to think about and remember the men and women who died while serving in the military. They are the men and women who stood up for America and protected the people and what we stand for, freedom. Patriotic holidays are important to celebrate because they bring people together so they can be proud Americans. Thank you.
And that finishes our presentation. If we could do a photo op now. Okay, students, if you'd step up to the front, please. Parents, now would be the time. Go ahead up front.
And we're going to take a break from the agenda now also to ask the coach of the girls U12 travel soccer team to come forward, and we'd like to congratulate them on winning the Connecticut Cup State Championship. So if you could come forward and speak a little bit about that and what got them there, and it's a great looking team, ladies. Good job.
Good evening. Thank you so much. Thank you. Good? Thanks. Oh, there it is. Good evening. My name is Brian Karashke. I'm the head coach of the U12 Girls South Windsor Soccer Club team. It's a privilege to be here in front of you, and I appreciate you taking the time to recognize these ladies right here. They have worked so hard this fall, and you know, I've been in education and coaching for the last 23 years, and one thing we always talk about in education is the vision of the graduate, right? But I think I'm with little kids, so we talk about citizenship, right? And what that means to be a good citizen, and what does that mean as people that we want them to be as they leave us. And one thing that these girls and the traits that they have, hard work, determination, perseverance, resilience, and they've really, and not to leave out, kind, humble, and doing the right things every day in school. So in saying that, you know, I really want to talk about resilience and perseverance because I think that's some things that we see in our kids maybe that they don't have. And we had two games, one in the semifinals where we were down 2-1 right away, and the girls came back and scored 3 goals to win 4-2 there in the semifinals. And then we played probably our toughest competition in the final against Wethersfield, 0-0 at the end of the game. So we got 2 overtimes. There, I believe, 5 or 10 minutes, Gary? 10-minute overtimes. After the first overtime, we were down 1-0. So the girls never quit. They never had a thought of losing. We get 2 goals in the second overtime to beat Wethersfield to become state cup champions. And that really talks to the girls and their resilience, their perseverance, and hard work and determination and everything they've done. And I'm really proud of them, and I'm glad we're here to share them with you, because this is what South Windsor is all about, and they show that every day. So thank you so much for having us. And just one last thing, thanks to the parents, thanks to everybody. My assistant coach, Gary, this is his 4th cup with the town of South Windsor. So he's won 4 of them in the town of South Windsor. So congratulations to Gary, congratulations to the girls and the parents and everybody else who's helped. A lot of these girls have been with us since they were 7. So it's been a really great climb and really great to see them grow and be the people that they are. So thank you very much for your time. Thank you for honoring them tonight. And we appreciate it. Thank you so much. All right, girls, when you hear your name, come on up. America. Good
job. You can go on up to the council and give a knuckle bump.
Yep. Shay. Emily Carmen. Evelyn. Aubrey. Ainsley. Gianna. Emily Gamble. Nora. Rebecca. Liston. Juliana. Coach Gary. Coach
Coach
Gary.
Gary.
There's Ben.
Very great job. Hire that man. All right. And Brian, congratulations. You guys want pictures with the council? Okay.
And I rolled up and I was like, what is this?
Okay. Are we good? Now we're still going to take a break in our agenda this evening, and we'd like to honor and recognize our past mayor, Andrew Paterna, who served our community well. And this evening, his picture will be going on the wall. So I would like past Mayor Andy Paterna to join me up there, please. Take a peek at the picture. You can't miss what's in the picture. His classic trademark right here in the picture. So I would like to congratulate Mayor Paterna with putting his picture, giving him his picture and being able to put it on the wall. And thank you for all the love and support that you gave our community, all the guidance as mayor, and all the hard work that you did as mayor. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Andy, come over, please. And I would like to present this plaque to Andrew Paterna for serving as mayor in the town of South Windsor for 2019 to 2021. And as you can see, it's a golden gavel in our town seal. So I would like to present this to you. Thank you so much. You're welcome so much, Brian.
I just want to say thank you very much for this recognition. I'm humbled by it. I am happy to serve this community. I think of my grandparents at a time like this, who came to this country as immigrants who had nothing, as some of the students tonight spoke about, and what they would think if they saw where I am today and working with all of you and serving this town. That's something they instilled in me from the day almost the day I was born. So I thank them for their wonderful heritage, and I thank you for this recognition.
You're welcome. You have your box there. Okay, now back to the agenda. And with the mayor's remarks, I'd just like to say that in this past week, the Evergreen Walk Festival Lights Parade and Lighting of the Tree ceremony took place, and it was a great time for our town here in South Windsor, in our community, and our residents. I would also like to say that we're moving into the holiday season, and I'd like to wish everyone out there happy holidays for all the holidays that are coming up and that are presently happening, and for whatever holiday you so choose to serve and honor and celebrate. We bless you and we thank you for that. And now I'd like adoption of the agenda, please.
I move the adoption of the agenda.
Yes, can we get a second, please?
Second.
Are there any amendments to the agenda?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor King?
I move that we move number 13, M and N, to after number 10. So to after the reports from committees, number 13, letters M and N.
Thank you. Are there any other amendments to the agenda?
Yes.
Councilor Merrick?
Yes, thank you. I also like to amend the agenda by removing item 11AG from the consent agenda so that the resolution can be amended to correct an error and have it for consideration as a first read at the next council meeting.
Thank you. Are there any other amendments to the agenda? Seeing none? Oh, I'm sorry. Andy?
Oh, no, I'm
Okay.
sorry.
Okay. Seeing none? All those in favor of accepting the amended agenda?
Aye.
Any opposed? None? It carries. Moving on to communications and reports from the town manager, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In terms of our coronavirus update, currently we have 2,249 total cases, 2,108 past the time of quarantine, 80 individuals in the community are currently infected with coronavirus, and we have 61 deceased. As I think everybody on the council and probably the town hall at least are aware at this point, I have instituted a mask mandate for all town facilities. So if you plan to come into a town facility, you are going to be required to wear a mask no matter your vaccination status. That is for both your health and everybody else's health around you. I think we've been watching pretty closely what the Omicron variant is going to do, trying to figure out that. We have been meeting with staff. Also, just to go back to the numbers real quickly, those numbers do put us at a red level for the state, which means we have 15 new cases per 100,000, which equates to community spread. So we are at a point of identified community spread within the Department of Public Health. We are working very hard along with the mask mandates. We've also been working today on trying to identify some additional vaccine clinics for kids in particular. We did hold a vaccination clinic on Saturday at Evergreen Walk. It was very well attended, almost too well attended, to be very honest. And as a result, we've identified that there is a pretty significant need for something like that in our community as well as for surrounding communities. A lot of people came from surrounding communities as well. So we are in the process of working on setting up a number of those moving forward. Also, we've identified that there is a bit of a gap that is starting to occur in testing. Finding tests have become more and more difficult over the last month, I think. If any of you have had to experience that opportunity, it's becoming more and more difficult. So we are working with some providers to try to identify some ways that we can offer more testing for the community as well as for town staff. In terms of my report, the rest of my report, we have released the Town Attorney RFP that went up on the statewide DAS, as well as there's been an advertisement put in the Hartford Courant. I have heard of interest from a couple different firms already, so hopefully we have some good responses for that. Also, I provided to the council a tax collection update. We are right on par with where we need to be in total in comparison to last year. Right now we're at 56.99% collected. Last year at this time we were at 56.89% collected, so we're a little bit ahead, which is always a good thing. And it's a good economic indicator as we move through the fiscal year to see how our community is doing from a financial standpoint. Moving forward, we are in the process of starting to get ready for our bond issue, which we typically do end of January, February timeframe. I think as all of you might be aware or might not be aware, we have about $95 million in authorized unissued debt. That's mostly for schools as well as for some of the road projects and other things that have been approved for the community. We're trying our darndest to try to get our credit rating as high as we possibly can moving forward. We're currently at a AA+ through Standard & Poor, and we're working really hard to try to get to a AAA. With $95 million in unauthorized or unissued debt at this point, authorized but unissued debt, there's some pretty significant savings we could see in those interest costs if we are to get to that point. So we are trying to do what we can. We're going to see what we could do when we put our presentation together for S&P and hopefully get moving forward on that. And I think as we move through the budget process, you'll probably see a number of times I'll say things to you about, you know, if we do something like this would be good for our credit score, and this will be looked upon favorably. If we don't do something like that, you know, different things of that nature. So just to put that out there. Also, in terms of the tennis courts on Margaret Drive, I've received a number of questions about them. That is a capital project that's been put out there, although it has not risen to the top of the pile for getting worked on. And unfortunately, in terms of our capital budget, there is a limit. We're only able to fund approximately $2 million, maybe a little bit less usually. So it is in there. It just has not raised to the top at this point. So hopefully we could see what we could do to get the town council to, or the capital committee, I apologize, to move that forward as much as we can moving forward. Lastly, I just wanted to bring to your attention that we have received an application for a mini matching grant from the Wood Memorial Library. Most of it is to do site work, removal of trees and different things of that nature. I did send it out for the town attorney to review, and she has reviewed and approved it and sent it back. I need to still do a review, and then I believe it comes to you for review and approval. And then the last thing I have that's not on here is that today we were notified that we are going to receive the Gfoa Budget Award again this year. That's an annual thing that comes out based upon our budget book that we develop and produce and then submit to the Gfoa. So it's a good thing to keep that going and keep that moving. We are going to be trying to work on a new budget book this year that should hopefully get us even further down that road in terms of achieving that budget award moving forward. So hopefully some exciting things moving forward in that regard. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Well, congratulations on the award. That's fantastic. Does anyone have any questions? Seeing none? I guess we're good. Okay, moving on in the agenda. We have public input on any items on the agenda. Is there anyone that like public input on any items on the agenda? And going thrice, public input for items on the agenda. Not seeing anyone. Moving on to item 8, adoption of minutes of previous meetings. Councilor Lopez.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. 8, adoption of minutes of previous meetings. Be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby approves the minutes of the following Town Council meeting, regular meeting minutes of November 15th, 2021.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Any discussions? No discussions? All those in favor? Aye. None opposed? And it passes. And then we have number 9, communications from liaisons, officers, and boards directly responsible to the council. Councilor Lydecker.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I did virtually attend the Board of Ed meeting last week. It's the last Tuesday of the month. They did elect their chair, vice chair, and secretary positions. So we have Chairman Zimmerman, Vice Chair Waterhouse, and Secretary Beth Essman. They did have a great presentation from Orchard Hill and Eli Terry. I think it was second grade in both that came and sang some songs at the Board of Ed meeting. It was phenomenal. The kids were adorable and did a great job. And then they transitioned into discussing about the music curriculum that they are currently offering all through all the levels, all the way up to high school, and the differences in the curriculum. They had a whole PowerPoint that you can review online. And then they did discuss what we'll see in front of our agenda today, 13D, and that's just the official sign-off so they can move forward on the work that was authorized during the referendum in March. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Any other reports? I'd like to give a, go ahead, Councilor, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I do want to report that the Planning and Zoning Commission closed the public hearing on November 23rd for a site plan application for the proposed warehouse facility on Talbot Lane and Governor's Highway. The public hearing spanned multiple meetings, and they collected hours of public input. On November 30th, the commission discussed the merits of the application for over an hour, and we should expect them to render a decision tomorrow night. Furthermore, the commission also opened and continued a public hearing for zoning text amendments that would impact the Buckland Road Gateway Development Zone to increase the allowed number of residential units from 200 to 365, as well as an amendment to the Evergreen Walk General Plan and a special exception application for a 165-unit multifamily development. That public hearing will likely continue on the 14th. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other reports? I'd like to give a report on the Personnel Committee, and if our Assistant Town Manager and HR person, Vanessa, could give us a hand there, since she has sent us all an email, and bring everyone up to speed on where we are with hiring of the Clerk of the Council, please.
So we unfortunately had to repost the position for an additional close to 3 weeks. We had only received 3 applications. I did just check before the meeting, and we're up to 5 now, so that's a little better than where we were before. The new closing date is Monday, December 20th at midnight, and the Personnel Committee is scheduled to meet again on December 22nd at 1 p.m. to review the additional applications received and then finalize the hiring process. The tentative schedule is for the Personnel Committee to hold first interviews on January 5th, and then the entire Town Council will hold second interviews on January 10th, and that would be during executive session at a special Town Council meeting. And hopefully we can have an appointment made at the January 18th regular meeting.
Thank you, Vanessa. And then I'd also like to report on the Naming Committee, which met, I do believe, last week. Yes, we met last week, and we were looking at the policy of the Naming Committee, and Councilor Evans isn't here, who was elected chair of the Naming Committee, but the Naming Committee is looking at the policy and breaking down the policies and procedures of the naming applications. And then we'll be meeting again soon, right? I hope. Okay, thank you. And moving on, let's see, 13M. a chance to get there. 13M is on page 17. And Counselor Lydecker.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Be it resolved, a resolution accepting the resignation of Kenneth Lewis from the Patriotic Commission. Be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby accepts with regret the resignation of Kenneth Lewis from the Patriotic Commission effective November 2nd, 2021. And be it further resolved that the South Windsor Town Council extends its thanks to Kenneth Lewis for the time he has dedicated to serving his community by his membership on the Patriotic Commission.
Is there a second? Okay, any discussion? I'd like to personally thank Mr. Lewis for his time and dedication on the Patriotic Commission, which he held so near and dear to his heart, and totally thank him and wish him well with his new adventures in life. And we appreciate you and everything that you've done for our community and all the time that you've given to South Windsor. Thank you. And Andy, okay. And all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? And the motion carries. Now N, Councilor Paterno.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is a resolution accepting the resignation of John Pelkey, an alternate from the Parks and Recreation Commission. Be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby accepts with regret the resignation of John Pelkey, an alternate from the Parks and Recreation Commission, effective November 28, 2021. And be it further resolved that the South Windsor Town Council extends its thanks to John Pelkey for the time he has dedicated to serving his community by his membership as an alternate on the Parks and Recreation Committee. I want to add my thanks to John. I know he's been...
Is there a second? Okay.
I'd like to add my thanks, personal thanks to John. I know he's worked hard on the Parks and Rec Commission.
Absolutely, he has. And all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No. Okay, and the motion carries. Now back to the agenda. Page 2. Back to number 11, the consent agenda for the first reading, and please only read the dark heading, and that will be Councilor Kozakowski.
Thank you. Number 11 consent agenda. Motion to approve the agenda items 11AA through 11AH as a first reading on the consent agenda.
Is there a second? Okay, any discussion? Any removals? All set? All those in?
I'm sorry, but I think we
yes.
removed item G already.
Right.
We did remove G already, yes, we did. So any other discussion? None? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Not seeing any, and the motion carries. And moving on, you said 11H, AH. Okay, and that would be Deputy Mayor King on page 4 at letter I.
I make a motion to approve agenda items 11A, lowercase a, uppercase I, through 11, lowercase a, uppercase O as a first reading on the consent agenda.
Is there a second? All those in favor? Aye. Okay. There was no discussion on that. Thank you. Now we're moving on to 11, let's see, 11B, second reading. Councilor Paterno on page 6.
All right, thank you, Madam Mayor. It's a motion to approve agenda items 11, lowercase b, uppercase A, through 11, lowercase b, uppercase v, as a second reading on the consent agenda.
Is there a second? Second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None. The motion carries. And that goes to V, we said. Okay, UV. Councilor Kabaski, we are now on page 10 at the letter W, right above a letter W.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Motion to approve agenda items 11 lowercase b, uppercase W through 11 lowercase b, uppercase double D as a second reading on the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Councilor Paterno?
Oh, no, I'm
Okay.
sorry.
Okay, sorry. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None. The motion carries. So after 11DD is where we need to pick up at 11 CC? No, where are we at? DD, I'm sorry. Now we're at 11C, which is miscellaneous, and we have none. Number 12 is unfinished business. 13 is new business. And Councilor Evans isn't here, so please, Deputy Mayor King, 13A.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A resolution creating a park and recreation facility planning and implementation committee. Whereas the town of South Windsor operates a robust parks and recreation program that includes children, teens, adults, and seniors. And whereas since July 2017, the South Windsor Parks and Recreation Department has been housed at Wapping School. And whereas the town of South Windsor invested $1,341,277.90 into the upgrade, maintenance, and operation of Wapping School in order to operate its programs. And whereas Wapping School is still under the control of the South Windsor Board of Education, and whereas the town of South Windsor has seen a significant increase in the student population, and whereas the Board of Education has notified the town that they will need Wapping School for educational purposes to meet the needs of the increased student population by July 1st, 2023. And whereas the town of South Windsor needs of a permanent home for the Parks and Recreation Department. Now therefore, be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby creates a park and recreation facility planning and implementation committee with the express purpose to, number one, identify the needs of the South Windsor Parks and Recreation Department and the recreational needs of the South Windsor community. Number two, identify and vet locations for the South Windsor Parks and Recreation Department based on the following criteria. Letter A, meeting department programming needs. Letter B, space for growth and meeting the needs of the community today and tomorrow. Letter C, accessibility to all residents. Letter D, cost effectiveness. Number three, propose the chosen solution to the town council for a referendum. Number four, educate and advocate for the proposed facility solution and for resources to implement the plan. Number five, lead the building and implementation of the plan if it is approved. Number six, the committee shall be absolved at the completion of a proposed project or the failure of a referendum to allocate resources for a proposed project. And be it further resolved that the committee shall consist of 7 voting members with no more than a bare majority being from one single political party. 1 member shall also be a member on the Public Building Commission and bring experience in design and building of public facilities. 1 member shall be from the Parks and Recreation Commission, who will bring an understanding and knowledge of the community's recreational needs. 5 members shall be voting members of the community and must have experience in planning, building, architecture, design, and recreation. And be it further resolved that a member of the town council from the majority party and the minority party shall be ex officio members with the right to speak at meetings but no vote. The town manager and/or his designee shall also be ex officio members with the right to speak at meetings but no vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Good job. Is there a second? Second. Any discussion? Councilor Kozakowski?
Sure. I guess I can go first.
Sure.
Okay, so thank you. I think this kind of committee seems like a reasonable approach for solving this problem of finding a new home for the Parks and Rec Department. I did have some questions and maybe some suggestions for the purposes that are listed 1 through 6. Is this a good time to discuss them?
Certainly, please.
All right, thank you. So starting at item number 3, in the purposes purpose list, it reads, propose the chosen solution to the town council for a referendum. Written this way, it sounds like it takes control from the council from providing input to the solution. Furthermore, it assumes that the solution requires a referendum. I think it could be better written as make a recommendation to the town council that offers a plan for the relocation of the South Windsor Parks and Rec Department. I think that leaves a little bit of wiggle room and control to the council on kind of what the final approach to where we're going to go with that, with the relocation and the process to which, to effectuate it.
Could we take your suggestions one at a time, please, as a friendly amendment or rewrite of that resolution?
Sure.
If you could please reread that slowly again.
Okay, so
everyone could get that?
Okay, so I'm proposing as a friendly amendment, rewrite number 3 under the purposes to be make a recommendation to the town council that offers a plan for the relocation of the South Windsor Parks and Recreation Department. So that's the recommendation and justification. That way the council has authority to provide input in the process when evaluating the recommendation.
Question, Madam Mayor?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So just to be clear, but you're not suggesting that we wouldn't still have a referendum of some sort?
What I'm suggesting is the charter and or the ordinances clarify exactly the reasons why we would require a referendum. So if the plan falls under that certain category, then we would require a referendum. If they propose if through this committee we propose something that doesn't require a referendum, I don't want to create a situation where we have to have one because of the resolution.
Got it.
Does that make sense?
Any other questions on that change? And if I may ask, Deputy Mayor King, the light's still on? I didn't know if you had more questions. In following that thought process with the referendum and bringing it back to the council, in the second part of your sentence, I think covers that. Could you please read that again, please?
The second. Well, it was the friendly amendment was it was one sentence.
Okay.
I can reread it.
Please.
Make a recommendation to the town council that offers a plan for the relocation of the South Windsor Parks and Recreation Department.
And that's it?
And that's it.
And that's it.
Period.
Okay. Okay. Continue.
Okay.
Do you have any other?
Mayor?
Yes.
If Councilor Kozakowski has a few other additions, can we take them one at a time? If I second that amendment, then we can discuss it and vote on it, then go to the next one?
Yes,
Is that all right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
You're seconding
I'm
that?
seconding that, yes.
Okay. And all those in favor on that change to the resolution? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None? Seeing none? Okay, that change is accepted. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. And then under item number 4, hold on, it reads, okay, well, I'll state my recommendation after. It reads, educate and advocate for the proposed facility solution and for resources to implement the plan. First, I had a question. How would the committee educate and advocate for the proposed solution? Will there be like a budget for this work associated to that?
Mr. Maniscalco?
Well, I think from my thinking at least, they're going to need some type of funding probably to do those evaluations at some point. Once the committee is together and kind of gets its feet on the ground, my understanding would be that they would probably come back to you looking for some type of funding. Timing-wise, it might work out best to include that within the upcoming budget, in all honesty, but we could also do an off-budget appropriation through contingency, something of that nature, if we needed to. So.
Okay. Okay. So, and so in this item, I propose a friendly amendment to replace the words "the proposed facility solution" to the words "the plan." So that way, it will read, "Educate and advocate for the plan and for resources to implement the plan."
Mr. Maniscalco, do you have any comments on any of this? Is that fine?
No, that's fine.
Okay.
That's fine.
Is there a second? Any questions, discussions? Okay, all those in favor of that friendly amendment change? Aye. Any opposed? Not seeing any. That motion carries. Councilor Kozakowski, any more?
I have one more friendly amendment, then I want to discuss something. As a friendly amendment under item number 6, it uses the word absolved, and I think the correct word would be dissolved. So I offer a friendly amendment to replace the word absolved with dissolved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor on that word change to dissolve?
Aye.
Any opposed? None?
Okay, and then my last things, I don't have an amendment, but I guess something more for clarification, justification. Under item 5, where it discusses that the committee will lead the building and implementation of the plan if it is approved, this seems to be in conflict with the roles and responsibilities of the Public Building Commission. I can see this committee overseeing the transition from one location to the other and provide input on the building and construction of it if necessary, but this committee should not take any role or responsibility away from any existing committee, board or commission. So I don't know if this will or not do just that, but I would like clarification on that.
My understanding of this group would be to do the planning and the design of whatever that solution is, whether it's building a new building or renovating some existing building or whatever that would be. It seems to be, at least in my mind, having sat on a number of public building projects, like you would be then reinventing the wheel, having the Public Building Committee trying to get back up to speed with how to actually implement something of that nature. There's a lot of work that goes into the planning side of building a building, or even renovating something for that matter. So it seemed to me that it would be a bit counterintuitive and a waste of energy and resources on everybody's part to go back to the Public Building Committee to do something of that nature in this scenario. That was at least my thinking behind it.
Okay, I don't.
Councilor Kazakowski, go ahead.
I don't know if I have any comment on that.
Explain your thought process, please.
Yeah, no, just if, I mean, we already have a board, a public building commission, a board that, it has their expertise in public buildings. So if there's a solution that requires, say, a new building or a modification to an existing building, it seems to make sense to go to the group that already has that charge to oversee that planning and design and implementation. Why create another group to do that when we already have one that specializes, so to speak, in that endeavor?
So could I ask, if you don't mind, could I ask, in the one that you're talking about is number 5, lead the building and implementation of, I have a problem with that word too, implementation of the plan if it's approved. Is there a way to word that to where this group could then take the next step to work with the Public Building Commission or take their findings after it comes to council to the Public Building Commission, and because they're the ones that are doing the work, this committee. So is there a way to word that would satisfy what you're looking for the communication between the two?
Yeah.
And I understand what you're saying about the PBC, absolutely, I agree. However, the hard work that goes in from this group, let's get it to PBC somehow. So if you could come up with a sentence that would be appropriate for that. I mean, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, I'd solicit input from other counselors or the town manager.
Okay, Counselor
But
Gamble?
I'll think about it.
Okay, you think about it, and I'll come back
I didn't
to
have
you.
any specific input for rewriting the sentence. I was just going to sort of agree with you by saying, if we have the 7 members to do all this work, and then to say on top of that, now you must lead the building and implementation of this plan, that's a big ask for this group of 7 people, and I don't know if that's going to be realistic for those when we already have, like you said, a commission in place that already set up to do that. So, yeah, I agree with your point about trying to word it so that it's done by the PBC without having to go back and start from scratch.
And who best would be able to explain it to PBC besides this group, the ones that work so hard on it,
right,
and explain what they're looking for, questions or work with PBC?
And I believe there is a PBC member on this group, so that's helpful.
What if we consider changing the word lead to assist?
Madam Mayor, may I take a stab at changing number 5?
Absolutely, if you guys don't mind. Go ahead.
Effectively transition and collaborate with PBC to implement the transition of the new Park and Rec facility.
That sounds wonderful to me.
Mm-hmm.
I think that that hit the nail right on the head.
I'll
Is
second
everyone accepting of that? Is there a second?
I'll second that.
And you're happy with that? Any other discussion? Good job, Councilor Lidecker. You got all our brains together.
All right, can I go home now?
There you go. You got the A for the day. There you go. You took 4 thoughts and put it into 1. That's great. Mr. Maniscalco, is that acceptable to you?
If that's what the council would like to do, that we could certainly do that.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other changes that anyone or discussions or Councilor Paterna?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I'm hoping that Board Chair Zimmerman is not watching this meeting tonight. But of that $1.3 million that we spent to upgrade the building, will there be any kind of rebate from the Board of Education to compensate us for that, spending that money?
I have not been made aware of that at this time.
All right, thank you.
All right. Okay. Seeing no other discussion on this, oh, one more. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor King.
The only question I had after I had to read that thing, do we have is there a time? I don't see a time or a date in which this committee needs to be, I don't want to kick the can down the street.
Established?
Right. Exactly.
By the time it needs to be, a time for it to be established?
Well, if it needs to meet the needs of the increased student population by July 1st of 2023.
We better get moving yesterday, huh?
Well, I'm sure that the town manager probably has.
Yeah.
Is it yesterday?
So the challenge I think we're facing in this scenario is that there's no way any group could probably move fast enough to meet the needs of the Park and Rec Department and the timeline that's been set out to vacate Wapping School. So I will caution you, as I've said, I think in the previous meetings, that we are going to have some type of interruption of the Parks and Recreation Department to some degree. The purpose of this group is to not come up with the Band-Aid solution or the temporary solution, but to come up with the final and the permanent solution. So that way we're not spending another $1 million on a temporary home or some other scenario like that. So, I didn't want to hem them in with a timeline because I'd like them to do the right job, not the quick job, if that makes sense.
Follow up, Madam Mayor?
Absolutely.
So and I get that, I agree. My question, I guess, is more, if it were up to you, when would you have this committee of 7 together? The end of December, the beginning of January?
As soon as all of you identify the members and vote to approve them, we would be getting a meeting together as soon as possible after that.
Oh, okay.
And I was going to add to that, if I may, or Councilor Gamble, go ahead.
I was going to ask that question. How do we come up with these 7 members? And
correct. It's not written within the resolution to come up with these 7 members that come before the council. If the council, maybe we could write a paragraph in here that would say that the 7, unless you had a plan to gather 7 members, no? Then maybe we should have on December 20th, at our December 20th meeting, or, submit 7, names from whomever that we have here, and then we can go ahead and submit the names, and I believe, Mr. Maniscalco, you would contact those folks? Okay. Do we need it any more formal than that to where the council needs to decide on the 7 members?
No, but
Does anyone feel that's necessary?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
2 of the members are actually from Park and Rec Commission and Public Building Commission. So can we leave it to them to select that person to come to the
Oh,
committee,
absolutely.
right? So we're not really looking for 7, we're looking for 5.
5.
Okay.
5, right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Through you, Madam Mayor, we actually, and I agree with the 5 members that'll be voting members, but then we need the 1 member ex officio from the town council and the town manager or his designee, so there would be 7.
Majority party and minority party, which shall ex officio, correct?
So there would be 7 that we would have maybe not the council, but the town manager would have to pick somebody, and the town council would need to pick someone.
So let us come back on December 20th with the names of those folks, or submit them in at the agenda meeting that would be going on to this committee. Is that acceptable to everyone? Councilor Lopez?
I have a question.
Your light's on. I didn't know if you had a question.
Yeah, so this may have predated me in the town council, but when Parks and Recreation moved from the community center to where it is right now, was there a committee also created?
I didn't hear the question completely. Say it again.
When Parks and Recreation moved from the community center to Wapping, where it is right now, was there something similar done?
No. No.
Okay.
No.
It was,
Yeah, I think in that scenario, the move was an expansion, in all honesty, of the department in the facility that they were able to offer. It was an opportunity that was offered to the town that allowed the department to probably do quite a bit more. I'm speaking slightly outside the realm of my knowledge because I wasn't here, but that's kind of my understanding of how it happened, and it was just more or less a number of staff with the approval of the council made the renovations to the building and moved forward with that move. So in this scenario, we are really kind of finding ourselves homeless, for lack of a better term, with our department. So we kind of, that's the bigger, in all honesty, that's almost the harder issue, is where exactly are we going to move, and how is that going to all transpire, and what is that going to look like, than actually implementing it. From my perspective, the implementation is almost easier.
Okay. I'd like to add a paragraph here that just says, be it further resolved that the names of the 7, correct, members shall be received by December 20th to the town manager. So the first beginning of the year, they can meet and get rolling on business, if that's okay. If Ms. Perry could just write up a paragraph for that states something like that, if that's acceptable. Do I have a second on that?
Second.
Any discussion? Not seeing any. Councilor Leidecker?
My only question, if I may, Madam Mayor, is what is because we need 2 members from the town council, one from the majority party, one from the minority. What is the time commitment that Mr. Maniscalco is envisioning for this? Are these monthly meetings? Are these bi-monthly meetings? Just so we can kind of have an idea, because I know there's a couple counselors here who are interested, but what's the time commitment?
My hope would be that they're going to be pretty, I don't want to speak for whomever the committee is going to be, but my hope is going to be that it's going to be pretty dedicated to getting this project done, because, we are up against the wall. So, it might be there may be a time where they have 2 meetings a month. There may be a time where all of a sudden it might slow down, or waiting on some type of report to come back, and it may be 1 meeting or no meeting for a month or something of that nature. So it could be very intensive at certain points in the process.
Councilor Kozowski, no? You're all set? Okay. And if we're in that vote, is there any other discussion about adding that paragraph? Okay, all those in favor on that amendment to the resolution? Aye. Any opposed? Not seeing any. Thank you. Now we'd like to have a motion to accept the amended resolution, as presented and voted on.
Madam Mayor, I move that we accept this resolution as amended.
Is there a second? Second. Okay, any other discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Not seeing any. The motion carries. I would like to, if I could, get a motion to suspend the rules in the town council meeting here for a minute, to go back to the communications and reports from the town manager, item number 6. We do have a presentation from our winter presentation from the Director of Public Works, Vincent Stetson, which we read the town manager's report, but we skipped right over his presentation. So if someone could make an amendment to suspend the rules so we can go back to all those in second, and all those in favor? Any discussion? None? Okay. And Mr. Maniscalco, I'd like to go back to number 6,
Thank you. I
please.
apologize. We were a little overzealous in moving forward with things.
Sorry, Mr.
Stetson's here,
Stetson.
and Mr. Cunningham's here as well to do a quick presentation on winter weather and our winter safety for residents. So,
thank you.
Good evening, guys. Thank you for having me, Mayor Pendleton, councilors. It's a very windy, cold night tonight for Monday Night Football, and I think we're going, sorry, wrong meeting. So I'm going to just talk really quickly. I didn't put a PowerPoint together for this. I know Scott on the back end has one for you guys. So just quick story point of view about how we look at storms and just a little inside peek about what we do at the town garage and what the public can do to help us make our jobs easier. So it all just depends on the storm. They're not all the same. We are constantly monitoring the weather forecast this time of year. We have a subscription service along with a few different apps. Each manager has their own favorites. They formulate their own guesses or forecasts. When the weather's getting closer, we are always trying to make the right decision. We start watching traffic cameras to the west of us. We look at weather stations. We have access to the state's road weather information system. They have stations in East Hartford, Windsor and Tolland is where we pull the closest information from. And these systems provide real-time pavement temperature, subsurface temperatures. It compiles a myriad of data showing trends like salinity of the surface, dew points, etc. And that is pretty important in our decision-making tree. Again, it all depends on the forecast. Not any one storm is the same. We may pre-treat the road sometimes with a brine system. These are the white lines that you guys see on the road. The town owns 2 of those trucks that can be outfitted for this. This is a preferable method for when we know it's going to snow. Conditions need to be right to employ this because if it looks like it might rain, it might just wash all that salt down the road. So temperatures need to be right for that. What that does in short is creates a bond breaker between the ice and the snow, so nothing bonds to it. Looks like a lot of you guys might remember back in the 80s and 90s, the washboard effect of the roads. That's why you don't see that anymore. What it also does, it buys us time in relation to how quickly we need to get out there and make the next treatment. And believe it or not, it lowers our salt usage because it is not as potent as the hard salt that we put down. A lot of thought goes into when the staff is called in, when to start plowing roads and how much salt to be applied to the roads. Again, this is all condition dependent, time of the day, week, forecast. The forecast calls for snow followed by freezing rain. You know, we might hear from the peanut gallery that we're not out there plowing, but there is a little wisdom in that because if you plow a surface of snow off the road and then you just have blacktop, the freezing rain comes down, freezes right to the roads, and now you have an ice skating issue. All this is in an effort to provide passable, safe roads as long as possible. Very proud of the fact that we kind of led the way in salt application in the state. We measure all of our snow or all of our salt before it goes in the trucks. So that way there we know how much that we're putting out per truck, per route. We calibrate all the trucks for pounds per mile. And we really try to use the least amount of product as possible, not only for financial reasons, but for the environment. You know, we're kind of salting the earth as the Romans did, and we'll have to figure out long-term how to get away from that in the industry. But that's not a discussion for here. Additionally, all the trucks are outfitted with GPS units. That allows us to not only locate our team, but provides real-time feedback about the truck's performance. There have been a few emergency scenarios over the years where town plow staff were identified as being the closest to an emergency where the roads needed to be cleared, and we provided a faster response time for emergency services. It goes without saying that none of this would be possible without the talented, dedicated staff behind the wheel. The ASME union members always come through and work days on end at times to get our community back to normalcy as fast as humanly possible. because even with all the technology, all the tools that we have, none of it can happen without our dedicated staff. Getting back to the response about storms in general, the team tries to make most decisions by committee to ensure that all aspects of the forecast are being considered. Every week we have a different on-call supervisor. At the end of the day, it's his decision on what we're going to do, but we really try to have a collective conscience and just make sure that none of us are missing anything. If there's numerous power outages or blizzard-like conditions, there's a process to activate the EOC, which I believe Scott's going to touch upon, and we can engage with Eversource and other emergency response providers to ensure, once again, the fastest return to normalcy as possible for our community. Things that the public can do to help with our response would be to logically stay off the roads to allow our plow drivers all the room they need to do their job safely and efficiently. This also goes for parking bans. If you do encounter a plow truck, please try and yield as much room as possible to them. If you do have to travel during a snowstorm, having the proper tires on your vehicle goes a long way, along with slowing down and leaving more room when you're following other vehicles. As with any emergency, planning ahead can do a lot to lend yourself more comfort and security during a winter weather event. Don't wait till the snow falls to go buy that snow shovel or replace those windshield wipers. If any resident is interested is in need of a sand and salt mixture, there is a hoop house on Burgess Road adjacent to the main salt shed, and residents can pick up by the shovel reasonable amounts of sand and salt. And as always, if anybody has a emergency out there, you know, they can reach out to the Public Works Garage for any assistance, but if it's a true emergency, dial 911, and if we can be of assistance, police will dispatch us accordingly. And with that, I will give the table to Scott here.
Madam Mayor.
Do you guys have any questions? I'm sorry.
Before you bounce, question just for those of our community who are not familiar where to pick up the last piece of your sentence, which I think is extremely important, that residents can pick up sand and salt. Is that what you said?
Yeah, it's a mixture. It's not pure salt, but it's a 50-50 blend. There's a small little Quonset hut on Burgess Road. Can't miss it. It's green. There's a shovel in there.
What is the address?
Burgess Road.
157 Burgess Road.
Exactly. So I just wanted that for the record, just in case people aren't familiar. That way, when they see this, they know. Thank you, sir.
Great. Thank you.
Please allow me a moment to set up my presentation, please.
We have a PowerPoint behind us.
Just the first three microphones. On the left. There you go. That's fine. Thank you. Good evening. My name is Scott Cunningham. I'm the Fire Inspector and Emergency Management Coordinator for the town. Tonight, I'm going to give you a brief presentation on winter preparation and safety. Let's talk for a few minutes about winter weather risks. Winter weather can last a few hours or several days. It can cut off heat, power, and communication services. It's important to note that it can put older adults, children, sick individuals, and pets at greater risk. What should you know about winter weather? Well, first you should know what to do before, during, and after a winter storm. You should listen to local officials. You should have emergency supplies in place at home, at work, and in the car. As Vincent said, you should stay off the road during and after a winter storm. Let the public works crews go out, adequately clear the roads, make them safe for travel. Another important note is to have a carbon monoxide alarm in place especially if using alternative heating devices. Use safe heating devices. Let's first of all define some terms that the National Weather Service uses and weather forecasters use frequently. The first definition is of a winter storm watch. A winter storm watch alerts the public to the possibility of a blizzard, heavy snow, heavy freezing rain, or heavy sleet. Winter storm watches are usually issued 12 to 48 hours before the beginning of a winter storm. The next definition is a winter storm warning. A winter storm warning is issued when a hazardous winter weather in the form of heavy snow, heavy freezing rain, or heavy sleet is imminent or occurring. Winter storm warnings are usually issued 12 to 24 hours before the event is expected to begin. The next definition is winter weather advisory. This is issued for accumulations of snow, freezing rain, freezing drizzle, and sleet, which will cause significant inconveniences and, if caution is not exercised, could lead to life-threatening situations. The last definition is the one that is the worst of all, the one of a blizzard. A blizzard is defined as sustained winds or frequent gusts of 35 miles per hour or more with snow and blowing snow, frequently reducing visibility to less than a quarter mile for 3 hours or more. What should you do during a winter storm? Well, you should minimize your travel. If travel is necessary, keep a disaster supplies kit in your vehicle. Listen to weather radio or other local news channels for critical information from the National Weather Service. Winterize your vehicle and keep the gas tank full. A full tank will keep the fuel line from freezing. Maintain heating equipment and chimneys by having them cleaned and inspected every year. Running water, even at a trickle, helps prevent pipes from freezing. All fuel burning equipment should be vented to the outside and kept clear. What supplies do you need for winter storm safety? Well, water, at least a 3-day supply, 1 gallon per person per day. Food, at least a 3-day supply of non-perishable, easy-to-prepare food. You need a flashlight, extra batteries, a first aid kit, a multi-purpose tool, cell phone with chargers, family and emergency contact information. You should also have warm coats, gloves or mittens, hats, boots, and extra blankets, and warm clothing for all household members. What should you do after a storm? Well, you should avoid driving when conditions include sleet, freezing rain or drizzle, snow, or dense fog. Protect yourself from frostbite and hypothermia by wearing warm, loose-fitting, lightweight clothing in several layers. Stay indoors if possible. It's important to help people who require special assistance, such as elderly people living alone, people with disabilities, and children. Stay safe during winter weather. Avoid carbon monoxide poisoning. Only use generators and grills outdoors and away from windows. Never heat your home with a gas stovetop or oven. Carbon monoxide kills. Never use a generator, grill, camp stove, or other gasoline, propane, natural gas, or charcoal burning devices inside a home, a garage, a basement, a crawl space, or any partially enclosed area. Locate the unit away from doors, windows, and vents that could draw carbon monoxide to come indoors. It's important that you install carbon monoxide alarms in central locations on every level of your home and outside sleeping areas to provide early warning of accumulating carbon monoxide. If the carbon monoxide alarm sounds, move quickly to a fresh air location, outdoors, or by an open window or door. Call for help from the fresh air location and remain there until the emergency personnel arrive to assist you. I've listed 3 important websites that I urge all of you to visit. The first one is ready.gov, the second is weather.gov, and the last one is redcross.org. All those provide a wealth of information that'll keep you and your family safe during a storm event. This concludes my presentation. Thank you for having me tonight, and I wish you and your family a safe and happy holiday season.
Thank you. Now that we're all back to our seats, does any counselors have any questions for our presenters this evening? I know that I had asked Mr. Maniscalco a while back to have our department heads to come and speak with us, especially Public Works, to prepare for winter time. And I do see the chief of our fire department here, and if he could come up and speak to us. And I do know that at past storms, Public Works has assisted with the fire department and ambulances to get them to the locations that they needed to go. So to work in conjunction in the police department also, knowing that they all work, and you can go ahead and speak about that.
Yes, so this is a great example of our team effort. We all work well together. We tag team each other very well. So everything that the Public Works said, and everything that Scott said about carbon monoxide and other emergencies, we all tag team and share the same thing. We have a great relationship with Public Works. At times, during major storms, we house them in our firehouses. They have a way to get in out of the storm instead of going back to one central location. We try and feed them at times. We try and take care of them. It's a great working relationship. And as they indicated, they also help us in case of emergency. They're out ahead of us, clearing their paths and doing our thing. But along with clearing their paths, we talk about preparations in storms and hydrants. This community does not have a town ordinance for clearing the hydrants, as some communities do. However, we strongly recommend homeowners clearing the hydrants from snow. We recommend 3 to 4 feet away from the hydrants so we have easy access. When we arrive at a scene to shovel out a hydrant in case of a fire, it takes us a good 5 or 10 minutes to do that, and those precious minutes can be disastrous to the homeowner. So we always encourage the public to clear their hydrants. If it's not even your hydrant, it's on your neighbor's property, help them out. It's everyone's hydrant. It's just because it's not on your property doesn't mean it's not yours, it's not your responsibility. There's no counter ordinance to enforce that. However, we strongly recommend that, and especially if your neighbors are elderly. Don't expect somebody elderly to go out and shovel a hydrant. When you're out doing your driveway or a snow blower, just take care of all the hydrants in the neighborhood. As Scott alluded, carbon monoxide poisonings are extremely dangerous. Not only have a carbon monoxide detector or alarm, but make sure it's valid. Those only last about 7 years, so some people lose track of time. On the back of every one of them, including our smoke alarms, there's a manufacturer date. Carbon monoxide detectors are only good for about 7 years, where smoke alarms for about 10. So having one is important. Having it working with active batteries or AC power is critical, but make sure it's not out of date as well. Some of them go off when they are out of date, and we go out to a lot of those incidents where they're just out of date. But as Scott alluded to, call right away. We just had an incident where somebody called after the fact 3 days later, asked us to check it out. By the time we got there 3 days later, there was no hazard. Told him to call back if it ever went off again. He did, and we found an issue with his boiler. So it is critical to call when it happens, not after the fact. But between carbon monoxide, smoke alarms, hydrants, and working with the Public Works and the Fire Marshal's office, we're all pretty well prepared. And I just want to say congratulations to the new counselors. That's why I came tonight when my work schedule hasn't been allowed to see you face to face. And just want to say congratulations to all of you. And thanks for sharing us. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Thank you, Chief. I do have one question.
Yes, Councilor Gamble.
Thank
Go
you,
ahead.
Madam Mayor. Personal question. Where is the best location for a carbon monoxide detector? Is it low or is it up high, like a smoke alarm?
Carbon monoxide, unlike other gases, is pretty equal to air. So it's not going to, or it's propane, it's going to go to the ground. Carbon monoxide is pretty close to what air content is. So it doesn't really matter where you put it. If you only have one, make sure it's in your sleeping level so you can hear it. Okay. We recommend at least one for every level, as Scott indicated. But if you only have one, because they are a little bit more expensive than smoke alarms, make sure it's up where you sleep. And it can be outside your room. If you have enough money to put one in every bedroom, that's even ideal. But it doesn't really matter where you have as long as it's active and working and valid.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
So, Chief, could you please impress upon our citizens of the community to not be afraid to call, not be afraid to call 911, even if so many folks I hear from, I didn't want to call, I don't want to bother them, I'm too shy, or whatever the case, please impress upon them.
We hear that as well when we do actually respond to some of the ones that we respond to. Regardless of whether we're volunteer or not, we're here to serve. That's what we do. Every one of our members is willing to go out, and actually it's almost like they're more upset when we don't go out because we're here to do something. We don't go through all of our training and dedicate ourselves to do nothing. We want to serve the community. So I don't care what it is. The fire department sometimes will be a catch-all, but when somebody doesn't know what to do, they call the fire department. But with the cooperation we have at other town services, we can solve the problem. It may not be by ourselves, but call, and somebody will come, whether it's the police department, the fire department, we'll get there, we'll figure out what the problem is, and I don't care if it's 2 o'clock in the morning, call. Whether it's medical, fire-related, carbon monoxide related, it doesn't matter. I don't think there's a police officer or an ambulance person that doesn't want us to call. Always call. I don't care if you think we're volunteers and you're bothering us, that's the furthest thing from our mind. So I can't reiterate that enough, and thank you for saying that. So.
Thank you, Chief.
Madam Mayor, if I may.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Chief, I just want to say that when people do call, all we ever hear is how wonderful our fire department is. So thank you to yourself and to your staff and to all of the volunteers. They were very professional. We thought this was silly. They came in and they reassured us. So everybody, all the feedback that I always get is very positive about our fire department. So thank you.
As the Public Works Director talked about, the employees are the best part. You can have all the tools and computers and everything else. Without the drivers plowing the trucks, we're nothing. The same goes for the fire department. We are very blessed with over 100 active members that are very dedicated, that are very loyal, and are extremely professional and well-trained. And I couldn't be blessed to have a better staff. And I know the cooperation with all the agencies is the same. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Any other comments or questions? I just want to say that the peace that I feel while sitting in this room, we have the fire marshal, the chief of the fire department, the chief of police, the emergency management. I mean, I feel really good right now. I feel really safe. So I just want to say thank you, everyone, for working together. And I absolutely love this presentation, Mr. Maniscalco, in getting your staff here. And thank you, staff, for all that you do. Appreciate it. Back to the agenda. Thank you for amending the agenda, the rules there. 13B, and that was the illicit discharge ordinance. Mr. Maniscalco.
Thank you, Mayor Pendleton. I think, I don't know if Mr. Stetson wants to get up and talk a little bit, but essentially he brought this forward to myself. Through some of the storms over the last few months, we've identified that this could be something that could be beneficial for the community. And for us moving forward. The ordinance that we did provide to you is very much a draft at this point, and there are things, of course, that could be changed or modified. It still would need to go through, just from a process standpoint, would still need to go through a legal review as well as a public hearing. So this would probably be the very beginning of a process of trying to put this all together. So I don't know, Vincent, if you want to give us a quick 5-minute overview of why you think this would be a good idea for all of us.
Well, we're mandated to do this for the MS4 permit. We need to have an illicit discharge detection program and then an enforcement arm for it. There has been some incidences over the past couple of years where we have found some illicit discharges and we've handled them on our own accord and made them go away. But in order to be compliant with the MS4 permit, we need to have a illicit discharge ordinance. The ordinance in front of you was drafted by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, Division of Oceans, Wetlands, and Waterways. They did this as a service to all the municipalities to simplify the process. It's a fairly generic document that most municipalities have been adopting. I don't foresee us ever really having to use all the teeth that are in this document, but nonetheless, it's necessary to have them just in case you had a very, very bad spill and somebody doing it maliciously or repeatedly. Right now, we really don't have, other than engaging with Connecticut DEP, We don't have any way to hold anybody accountable and to make sure folks are doing the right thing. It's a 3,000-word document. You know, we could go through it line by line, but I don't think that's the purpose of this right now.
Deputy Mayor King.
Yeah, my question is real quick. Just for the layperson, can you please define what an illicit discharge is, please? Just for the layperson.
So for your typical homeowner, that would be maybe a garage sink that is connected to our storm drains. So they're taking, you know, paint thinner, just anything that shouldn't go into that storm system. You know, from a business perspective, that could be a lot of different things. It could be lack of sedimentation controls on a construction site. Think Costco. We worked with them quite a bit through all the rain events this year. You know, if you had a machine shop and their floor drains were tied into the storm system and they're washing the floors, all the cutting oils are going in. A restaurant with their grease setups. You know, just this past summer, we had a processing plant in town, and we found out that their area, they had a floor drain, and it was going right into a brook. You could see evidence of, you know, things that shouldn't be there, or too many of things that shouldn't be there. So we worked with those folks to make sure that they were compliant and doing the best for the environment.
Councilor Decker.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Sesson, for coming in this evening. And I appreciate your answering my almost 30,000 word questions to you from earlier this morning. I guess overall what I'm struggling with in this ordinance and what I'm concerned about and I'm looking for us to be able to tweak is my reading of this is allowing this new agency to just walk into anybody's home unannounced, essentially. And while I understand from our town manager that there are state statutes that building inspectors are entitled to go into private residences, that does not sit well with me. I don't like the fact that we're creating an agency that has the authority to just walk into citizens' homes. So I would like to see something more in here that establishes set criteria as to how this is alerted to this agency, how notice is given to this homeowner, how they have the ability to interact ahead of time with this agency before somebody just knocks on the door and says, you need to let me into your basement, I'm gonna look through your house. So I would like to see some changes made, if we can, to that, because I think that's concerning to just be able to walk into anybody's home under this ordinance, and I'm not comfortable providing that. I'm also curious, what are the ramifications to the town? I mean, if these are established homes that were maybe, you know, you're 2 or 3 homeowners down from when this potential illegal situation was created, what's the liability on the homeowner's end versus the town's end? Because at some point in time, presumably a building inspector looked at that situation and offered a CO for somebody to move in, and now 3 homeowners down who don't know the difference, is there a potential risk to the town as well? So I'm struggling, and I don't know if this is something that the council should be making the changes on and coming up with the criteria, if Mr. Maniscalco should be, if they should be coming from your office, but I would like to see a little bit more explanation and a little less proactive walking into somebody's home and more, we've now documented a reason, so, and here's our specific reasons, this is why we would like to come see what's inside.
Mr. Maniscalco?
Yeah, I think what we can do is the town staff, if it's of the interest of the council, can try to give a first crack at putting together a set of criteria for how that would work and get something back to you if that works for everybody, if that's something that would be of interest. The second part of your question related to, does this kind of open a door for other risk? I mean, I don't know, I go back and forth on it because, I mean, that risk is almost already there in some circumstances. So it's something I plan to have a conversation with the town attorney about a little bit further as we, kind of move down this road of illicit discharge. I'm going to guess there's probably some type of statutory protection that's being put out there since this is a requirement for the MS4 permitting, but I'm not confident in that 100% at this point. So I would need to do a little more research down that road, certainly.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, and if I can just reiterate, the intent of this is not to carte blanche, just be able to go into everybody's house and check their drains. There would be substantial reasoning to do that. Part of the program is to go around and spot sample the 26 different outfalls that we have around town. And once you spot sample one of those, if it came up hot for chemical A, you would go then work your way upstream to the next test basin, test it, and then through a process of elimination, almost be able to drive your way right to where the source is for that. And at that point in time, we wouldn't even really ask for a search warrant. We would knock on the door and say, hey, we found chemical A. Is there any way you might have a drain that's connected? And kind of take it from there. But depending upon how you knock on the door and the response that you get, you might want to be able to call the police and say, hey, we've got XYZ here and we need to have a search warrant. It's not to go and trample on everybody's Fourth Amendment rights by any means.
And I absolutely do understand that that's not the intent. I just don't think that's how it's currently written. So whether it is the intent or not, this is establishing carte blanche authority into people's homes. And I think that's, that's our property right. So I would just like to see it honed up and tightened a little bit more.
Certainly.
So that's not something that's on the books.
Mr. Maniscalco, is there a time frame on this ordinance?
I don't believe there's any time frame on it. I think we can work on it and get something back to you as, we'll get some extra drafts work back to you, do a little bit of research. I don't think there's a super big rush to it at this point.
Great. All right. Any other discussion? Go ahead, Councilor Kozowski.
Thank you. I had
Kozowski.
2 questions. First, how would you say this ordinance either complements or contradicts the authority of the Inland Wetlands Agency?
That's a very good question. As we were reviewing this and trying to decide who the enforcement agency was, we decided that the Wetlands Committee should not be part of the enforcement agency so that they can stay apolitical and, just in case of somebody's brother that's on the board or, connections that way there's no possibility of any, backhanded deals.
Okay, and the second part is, I would think, coupled with an ordinance like this, there should be a public outreach, public education component to go with this, because I don't think the general public understands what illicit discharge means as it relates to
Yeah, so yearly
rainwater.
we have a public outreach. Education is part of the MS4 permit. Right now what we're doing is, checking one of those boxes just a little bit. But the MS4 permit is no exaggeration, about 350 pages long. It covers everything from, I hate to use the term, but soup to nuts. And it covers, impervious pavement. They want to reduce that. Direct connections, the water coming down your roof leader. It is a very, very involved and very complicated document. And we know that there is a couple factions out there that are going around to municipalities, checking their MS4 to make sure they're compliant. And if they're not, they're taking us to task. So this is an effort to not only do the right thing, but prevent those headaches from coming into this room.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Counselor Gamble?
So does this tie in at all to that other conversation we were having around the salt and sand, issue with it sort of seeping into the storm drains and that kind of thing? Is there any tie in here? Is that going to be an issue with this illicit discharge?
Yeah, so are they related? Yes, but this document doesn't have anything to do with the chloride working group or reducing salt use. We've got a lot of similar issues in town right now. You could relate this to folks' footing drains tied into the storm drain system. There's 500 miles of storm drain underneath the road that we need to maintain and monitor. And I'm rambling here.
Any other discussion? Any other questions? And Mr. Maniscalco, as you said, you're going to bring this back to the staff and rewrite something, get it back to the council, and maybe address some of Councilor Leidecker's concerns?
Yeah, we're going to see what we could do to put together some criteria to kind of tighten up that area around, how a violation is going to be identified, and then how, further review of that will work. So
great. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Stetson, for coming in with us. Moving on, 13, I'll get my glasses on. 13C, Councilor Gamble.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Resolution waiving the competitive bid process with Axon Enterprises, Inc. Whereas the Town of South Windsor Police Department's current body-worn camera program has existed for approximately 6 years and functioned remarkably well with very few issues or obstacles. The maintenance of this program is being executed under an existing contract with Axon Enterprises, Incorporated, and whereas by July 1, 2022, the police department's body camera program must be expanded to be compliant with the State of Connecticut Police Accountability Act. And whereas the existing contract addresses the need for cameras, data storage, charging docks, licensing, and evidence management software, in order to be compliant with the Accountability Act, the numbers of these items must also be increased. And whereas a co-written contract with Axon Enterprises, Inc., executed in parallel with the existing contract, would allow for the seamless expansion of this program without the need for or risk of introducing new incompatible hardware, software, or infrastructure. And whereas a recently obtained quote from Axon Enterprises, Inc. would satisfy the requirements and timeline of the Police Accountability Act and fall within the existing budget for this project, it is believed that it would be in the town's best interest to waive competitive bidding for this project and co-write a contract with Axon Enterprises, Inc. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby waives the competitive bidding process for this project.
Is there a second? Any discussion? Councilor Gamble? No? Okay, not seeing any. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Moving on. 13D, Councilor Leidecker.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Resolution designating the South Windsor Board of Education as the building committee for the roof replacement at Timothy Edwards Middle School. Whereas the South Windsor Town Council authorized the South Windsor Board of Education to apply to the Commissioner of Administrative Services and to accept or reject a grant for the roof replacement at the Timothy Edwards Middle School. Now therefore be it resolved that the South Windsor Board of Education is hereby established as the building committee with regard to the roof replacement at the Timothy Edwards Middle School, and be it further resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby authorizes at least the preparation of schematic drawings and outline specifications for the roof replacement at the Timothy Edwards Middle School.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Mr. Maniscalco, I have a question. Going back to the Public Building Commission, why is the Public Building Commission not part of this roof replacement project? Do they not do repairs or upgrades on public buildings?
So my understanding of the Public Building Commission is that they do like new buildings or complete renovations of buildings. This is a repair to a roof, so I think it's not of the appropriate scope.
Great, thank you. And any other discussion or questions? Not seeing any. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No, and the motion carries. Thank you. 13E, and that is Mr. Maniscalco, please, discussion item.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So we do have a draft resolution in front of all of you since our Fire Marshal, Mr. Walter Summers, put that together in addition to the resolution, your next resolution creating a public hearing. But essentially what we're looking to do, and I figured I'd get that resolution in front of you now, what we're looking to do, so the town had applied for reimbursements because of Storm Isaias and received a significant amount of money back to the tune of $249,294.74. As it works with FEMA, their rates are a bit higher than what we actually end up expending. So in this instance, we had some additional surplus funds, and what we're doing is proposing to use some of those surplus funds for emergency management projects to kind of start ticking off some of those things to help out the community moving forward in future storms. So those projects are $10,000 for the Crisis Track Field Technology System, which is a system that we currently use to manage different emergency management events in order to then apply for reimbursements moving forward. So we needed an upgrade to that software. And in all honesty, that software helped us get these funds from FEMA this time around. Also, we're looking to do $80,000 to install emergency backup generators at the Flax Hill and Wapping Mews community houses. One of the things that we've identified through our emergency management team is those two locations don't have backup generators. Those are either medically fragile, senior, or special needs populations that would be the responsibility of the community or the town staff in the event of an emergency. So by having that generation system on site, that'll buy us some extra time in the event we have to move them or if it's a longer term event. So that'll be very helpful if we're able to do that. And then lastly, we are looking to do $50,000 on replacing and repairing some emergency communications equipment located at the tower at the police department. So that'll help for our first responders communicating during events. So that's kind of a quick overview of it. I'm sure Mr. Summers could answer some additional questions if any of you have any more in depth.
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Maniscalco or Mr. Summers? Mr. Maniscalco, I guess I do. I don't understand why we would be putting generators in the community houses when in Flax Hill and Wapping Mews has individual apartments that are not generator protected. So would those folks leave their apartment area, go to the community center, the community house within their facility there?
Correct. So the way both those properties are designed, they have small apartments kind of around the outside with a community house in the center. The idea, we unfortunately we probably couldn't afford to come up with enough money to do a generator for each individual home that's there. So what our idea is we put a generator on that community home. It'll provide them a place where they could go, they could get warm, they could have a meal, they could watch TV, hang out together for a while, and kind of buy us time in the event that it's going to be a longer term duration that we would actually need to move them out of there.
Mr. Summers, do you want to add to that?
Sure. So each community house has obviously heat and air conditioning. There's a washer and dryer at each, and each one has a small residential style kitchen. So the design is to, if it's a 3 or 4 day or 2011, that we would create a safe place for them to go, charge their phones, get a hot meal, watch TV, socialize a bit, and not take them from their community over to the shelter, which on the staff side, we'd have to arrange transportation, sometimes special transportation. So the thought is to create a safe place for them at the complexes, and that way it takes one one concern away from us during a storm, and they have a safe place to go over there and charge their phones, et cetera, and that way we're not displacing them, maybe to the high school or whatever, and creating more transportation and sheltering needs for us.
And if the power goes out and they require heat, they're not going to go back to their apartments to sleep. Is there a ability for them to sleep within the community house?
They're small. You might be able to take a nap or something there.
Okay.
It's all electric heat over there on both places. And if we were doing the whole complex, that generator would be rather large. So we're looking at about a 60 kW and a 40 kW at the sites, so we can at least create these safe place for them to go. And then if a bigger or a longer duration event happens, at least it'll buy us time to get that all rearranged.
Okay. Thank you. Any, Councilor Gamble?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So how long will it take to put in these two generators once, if they're approved?
So these will be automatically transferred and start up. So there'll be no.
No. I'm sorry. I mean,
Installation.
like if you say go get them now, and then you go buy them and install them. Like, how long is that whole installation? Like, will it be ready for like the winter?
In the
bad
COVID
season?
area, just to give you a little history, we are replacing the generator at fire headquarters. That generator is finally shipping, hopefully, coming up next week, and should be hopefully. We always do this with COVID. Hopefully, be on site in a couple weeks, and that way that project can get going. All the preliminary work is done. The pad's there, the conduit's there. Most of the electrical work inside has been done. It's just waiting for equipment. We've had 2 vendors come out. I'm thinking the smaller generators are probably easier to get, but I will, if I commit to a time frame, it's just not right in COVID time, you know.
How long was the fire department generator?
That has been on order 6 months at least.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the sooner we can get the generators for this winter season for our folks in those 2 communities would be great. And they're smaller generators, so maybe we'll have better luck.
Yep, I do have, to come up with these numbers, I do have 2 quotes from vendors. I'm waiting on a 3rd to come out. So I'll discuss it with the town manager on whether we work with the 3 quotes, but based on the dollar amount, you'll have to make a decision whether you want to go out to bid, which will delay it out more, or take one of the 3 vendors that we have chosen. So.
Okay. Any other questions? Councilor Kozakowski?
Yes, thank you. I want to thank the fire marshal and the town manager for providing a written response to some of the questions that I submitted early this morning.
Sure.
So I'm not going to rehash all those things, but I think what would be important, at least for the public's sake, is why should the town be investing $80,000 for generators on private property?
They're housing authority, right?
Yeah, so both of those facilities, while you could sit here and say they're private property, I think we could also say we have a public responsibility. In the event of an emergency, a lot of our private assisted living facilities in town are the responsibility of the Department of Public Health in the event of an emergency. But because these are the town's housing authority, the residents that live within that facility will be our responsibility, not the Department of Public Health. So while it's the property of a nonprofit, it is somewhat a quasi-town entity to a degree, and that's why.
And could you explain if there an event where there was a power outage and these generators were not in, what's the responsibility of the town?
It would be our responsibility to identify, like if somebody has a need for oxygen or if they're getting cold within their facility or within their home, it would be our job to move them and then shelter them in some other location. Just personal experience, I've had a scenario where power was knocked out to a facility very similar to one of these, and we had to mobilize a bus as well as try to find a specialized school bus to move, I think it was 70 residents to a shelter location and plan on housing them for multiple days due to the power outage. So while these are not a fix-all for the whole situation, it buys us time because to organize a bus, to plow the road to get in there, to actually cut the trees out of the road that were knocked down, all of those are a lot of work and a lot of effort to try to get all that organized and taken care of. Not to mention when you knock on somebody's door and say you can't stay here tonight, and somebody who may have medical issues or maybe even mental health issues, that's a really hard conversation for people to wrap their head around and deal with, and it takes a lot of time.
Okay, thank you. So I guess just to rehash it. So making this sort of investment for these communities, not only would it help alleviate some stress and help in potential negative impacts on their life and safety, but it provides an outlet or an opportunity for the town to not have to pay more in the event if there's an event.
In all honesty, it'll probably allow us to leverage assets in different locations where they might be needed more. And probably in some instances keep us from having to leverage all those assets at that time. So,
okay, thank you.
Any other questions or discussion? Not seeing any. Thank you, Mr. Summers. Thank you, Mr. Maniscalco, for bringing this in. And moving on to 13F. Councilor Lopez, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. 13F, resolution setting a time and place for a public hearing to receive citizen input on the transfer of $140,000 in FEMA Storm Isaias reimbursement monies to 3 emergency management projects. Be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby sets Monday, December 20, 2021 at 8 p.m. in the council chambers of the South Windsor Town Hall, 1540 Sullivan Avenue, South Windsor, Connecticut, as the time and place for a public hearing to receive citizen input on the transfer of $140,000 in FEMA Storm Isaias reimbursement monies to 3 emergency management projects.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Not seeing any, the motion carries. 13G, Councilor Kabaski.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Resolution approving the Town Council meeting schedule for 2022. Be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby approves the Town Council meeting schedule for 2022.
Is there a second? Any questions? Discussion? Councilor Lydecker?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm going to channel Councilor Evans at the moment. She was wondering, I do believe, if the council may consider having one meeting in July and one meeting in August instead of taking a full month off in August. Sometimes we get called in for special meetings. Sometimes it's just a long break where no business is being taken forward. So she was just wondering and wanted to gauge if there was any discussion from the council or any thoughts and opinions from the council about doing, instead of a full month break, one meeting in July and then one meeting in August. So we still get somewhat of a break, but we also can kind of regularly stay on top of town business. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Campbell?
I would just say that's a good idea. I'd agree with Erica, Councilor Evans.
Councilor Paterna?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think our schedule, based on the charter, says 2 meetings a month. And we can always call a special meeting in August if there's important town business. So I'm not sure this is a necessary change in our meeting schedule.
Councilor Kazakowski?
Yes, I just want to just make sure that the calendar, fits in line with the charter and our bylaws and ordinances, and any deviation from that can easily be accomplished with special meetings.
Thank you. And I'd just like to add that it's not in the charter, it's in our council rules that were approved. It is spelled out when our meetings are, and that's all in our council rules. So that's where we're with right now, and our council rules would have to be changed. Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Not seeing any, the motion carries. 13H, Councilor Paterna.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is a resolution adopting a budget policy statement for the fiscal year 2022-2023. Whereas the South Windsor Town Council, in preparation for the upcoming budget, would like to establish a budget policy statement, and whereas the budget policy statement for the town of South Windsor will give direction to all town departments, the Board of Education, as they formulate their budgets. Now therefore be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby adopts the budget policy statement for the fiscal year 2022-2023 budget, and you had a copy attached to your agenda or in your packet.
Is there a second? Second. Any discussion?
I would just like to add, we asked all council members for some input on editing, and there were some changes that were sent in, so this final statement reflects any changes that anyone sent in. It was revised as people suggested.
Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Excuse me.
Aye.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Does someone have a question?
Yeah, I was
Yes,
just gonna,
I'm sorry,
I just
Mr.
wanted to say
Maniscalco.
real quickly, this is the earliest I've ever, in 10 years that I've done this, this is the earliest I've ever had a council actually go forward with a budget policy statement, so congratulations
You're
on
welcome,
that.
thank you.
Thank you.
And
That's
thank
good
you,
work.
Councilor Merrick, for your suggestions. Okay, and all those in favor, I'm sorry? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Not seeing any, motion carries. Moving on, I'm sorry, okay, to item 13I, discussion item, amendments to Ordinance 141, the Agricultural Land Preservation Advisory Commission. Do we have anyone here to speak on that? Councilor Paterna.
Madam Mayor, just, I'm sure Joe Kennedy could not make it tonight, but he was here at a previous meeting. This change they're asking for, I'm the liaison to the Agricultural Commission. So this change they're asking for, they believe reflects the wider scope of what that commission should be doing, as opposed to simply focused on land preservation. There are other projects that they would like to get involved in that involve agriculture in general. So that's what this is, why they're requesting this change.
And do we know what the change is, Councilor Paterna?
I don't know if we have a copy in our packet, the wording.
Well, I see.
I think it's more that they feel the name reflects what their listing of their duties are as a commission, whereas land preservation in the title always made people assume that's all they were doing was land preservation, period. If you look at the description of the Agricultural Commission, there's a list of 8 or 10 things that involve agriculture that may not be specifically land preservation. And they thought the name should reflect more what their description is.
So we're going from what name to what name? What are they asking for? Do we know?
Just South Windsor Agricultural Commission.
I understand now. Thank you, because I didn't see that, the Agricultural Commission. Okay. And moving on, does anyone have any discussion with this or questions with this for Councilor Paterna? Okay, moving on to 13J. Thank you, Councilor Paterna, for that explanation. And 13J is a resolution to set the time and the place. And Deputy Mayor King, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Resolution setting a time and place for a public hearing to receive citizen input on amendments to Ordinance Number 141, the Agricultural Land Preservation Advisory Commission. Be resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby sets Monday, December 20th, 2021 at 8:15 p.m. in the council chambers of the South Windsor Town Hall, 1540 Sullivan Avenue, South Windsor, Connecticut, as the time and place for a public hearing to receive citizen input on amendments to Ordinance Number 141, the Agricultural Land Preservation Advisory Commission.
Is there a second? Any discussion item? Any discussion on this? I guess the only discussion I have is a resolution that would be written up after the public hearing for us to approve the name change. If someone could communicate with Mr. Kennedy to find out what he's specifically looking for to get the wording accurate from their committee. And that way it can be ready for the public hearing and for us also. Thank you. Any other questions or comments, discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Not seeing any. The motion carries. 13K, discussion item, Councilor Lydecker.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So this wasn't necessarily about the creation of a temporary committee to establish the rules. It was more just, I believe the members of the current Ethics Committee are myself, Councilor Paterna, and Councilor Kabaski. We have no policy or procedures in place when an ethics complaint does come in. There's nothing written in the charter, there's nothing in the ordinance, we just don't have any procedures on how to handle these. So when a complaint comes in, what I would like to do, we do have a meeting, I believe it is Wednesday, December 8th. I meant to email Ms. Perry that I wanted to amend the agenda, so I will do an oral motion that day. But this is also just to kind of notice the citizens that I'm hoping the three of us counselors can sit and kind of create a procedure on how to handle these complaints when the complaint comes in. Do we give notice to the party who's being complained of? How much notice? How do they respond? What do we do with that response when it comes in? How do we, kind of navigate what is in front of us? So I'm hoping that the three of us can come together with some ideas on Wednesday and discuss and put something in writing for future ethics committees going forward. So hopefully we can talk about that at the meeting on Wednesday. Thank you.
Any other discussions, questions? Thank you, Councilor Lydecker. Moving on, 13L. Oh, that's me. Sorry. Discussion item processing for hiring of the clerk of the council requested by me, and I believe we've covered that earlier this evening. So we can move on unless anyone has any other questions concerning that. Seeing none, we've already done M and N. So moving on to 13O. And Councilor Kozakowski.
Thank you. Okay, 13O, resolution accepting the resignation of Jamie Gamble from the Blighted Property Board of Appeals. Be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby accept with regret the resignation of Jamie Gamble from the Blighted Property Board of Appeals effective immediately, and be it further resolved that the South Windsor Town Council extends its thanks to Jamie Gamble for the time he has dedicated to serving his community by his membership on the Blighted Property Board of Appeals.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any comments or discussion? Thank you, Mr. Gamble, for serving on our Blighted Board of Appeals. Appreciate your time and effort for the town. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Not seeing any, the motion carries. 13P. Councilor Gamble.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Resolution accepting the resignation of Megan Powell, an alternate from the Historic District Commission. Be it resolved that the South Windsor Town Council hereby accepts with regret the resignation of Megan Powell, an alternate from the Historic District Commission effective November 23rd, 2021. And be it further resolved that the South Windsor Town Council extends its thanks to Megan Powell for the time she has dedicated to serving her community by her membership as an alternate on the Historic District Commission.
Second? Is there a second? Second. Is there any comments or discussion?
I would just like to say I know Megan personally, and she is a student and at college, and she has really taken to the community and trying to become as involved as she can. And she, like she says, she regrets that she's not able to serve in this capacity, but she's a great young role model to everybody in that she's ever come in contact with. So I really appreciate her time and effort.
Thank you, Megan, and good luck in school. We appreciate your time and effort. And all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Not seeing any. The motion carries. Item 14, passage of ordinance. We have none. Item 15, public input for any matter on any matter. Come on up. Your microphone needs to be turned on. Oh, little button down at the bottom in the middle. There you go. Good job. Thank you.
There we go. All right. Dan Edwards, 131 Hilton Drive. I'll be quick. I feel like once a year I come up and really speak as a citizen about transparency. In the past, I'll give our town manager some credit. After the ATV fiasco, they actually went ahead and have started actually bulking up the agenda with meeting materials, and I'm very thankful for that. If we can continue to do that, that would be great. You know, a little bit of the transparency issue that I'm still kind of really annoyed about was the rules and procedures, the amendments, the town council rules. They were changed recently, at about 4 meetings ago. Myself and many others came to the meeting with a bunch of concerns that had the final copy actually been on the website, would have alleviated a lot of the issues. So again, the more we can be transparent with the residents, the better off things will be. Little things. Today, you just moved up M&N on the agenda, 13 M&M. Doesn't make any sense to me why those 2 new business items were moved up. Maybe just a little explanation next time if you're going to be moving items up on the agenda, just so people understand why. Made 0 sense to me, 0. In terms of executive session, historically when the town has been purchasing or considering purchasing property, they used to list the actual address. They no longer do so. Does not make any sense to me. I'm sure there's a great reason about it, but the town has a right to know. You know, we have a right to know. And that's about it. Thanks. I'll save my last question for another venue.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards. Are there any other public inputs on any matter? Is there anyone else who'd like to comment in public input on any matter? Not seeing any. Moving on, item 16, communications from the council. Not seeing any. Moving on to executive session, number 17. Deputy Mayor King, please.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I'd like to move us to executive to A, discuss the possible purchase of development rights for the town of Raymond and Burden property pursuant to Connecticut General Statutes. And I don't know how to read this number, but 1-206D, and letter B for the negotiations for the collective bargaining unions, South Windsor Police Union, Nutmeg Independent Public Safety Employees Union, and the South Windsor Non-Supervisor Professional Employees Union, which is an affiliate of the Nutmeg Independent Public Safety Employees Union, pursuant to Connecticut General Statutes 1-200B9 and 1-206E. I don't know if I need to move that after that we'll immediately adjourn, or is that you?
And we'd also like to invite our town manager, Mr. Maniscalco, and our assistant town managers, Mr. Roberts and Ms. Perry, into executive session, and to let the public know that we will be adjourning while we are in executive session of our regular meeting. And is there a second? Oh, I'm sorry. Discussion?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to amend the order and switch the two due to the fact that I've got to recuse myself from the development rights discussion because of my relationship with the Raymond family.
I understand. Thank you, Mr. Kombaski. Thank you. I appreciate that. And all in favor of switching the two from B discussed first to then A? Is that fine with everyone? Aye. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you, and the motion carries. Good evening, everyone.